Hola, buenos días.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
This is Barb.
And this is Estela.
And welcome to
Cafecito
and Crime. Wow. I just drank a shitload of water.
I'm pretty sure I will play it back, but I'm pretty sure your throat made the intro.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry about that. It's just that I drank raw water. Wow.
Okay, Scooby-Doo.
Water really fast y se me atoró, pues. Entonces, how are you, sister?
I am good. How are you, sister?
I could be better.
How so?
I'm a little stressed out. Mm-hmm. But other than that, we're good.
I mean,
wow.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Your phone made the intro.
Stress is it's just very prevalent this year.
So today, Estela decided to tell me earlier que me iba a cobrar because she was in my life. She told me that.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I forgot how we came.
Because she's funny.
No, pero how did we come?
We talked about how we needed to have a Cafecito and Crime dinner.
Right. End of the year.
End of the year.
Right. Oh, wow. That's you, bitch.
How? I don't even have anything on.
Oh, no. It was my computer. Sorry.
Estúpidas. So then, me dice la estúpida, oh, I am your gift because I
bring so much to your life.
Bring so much to your life. And I said, what? She's like, yeah, I bring so much to your life. I listen to you. I'm your therapist. I'm no sé qué, no sé
what
qué.
else? I forgot
Something
what
else. And then she's like, and especially I'm funny. I'm like, funny? Funny?
Nos van a robar.
No, it's my husband. Anyhow. Pero yeah, so this whole me va a cobrar porque she's funny.
Y luego, I put my hands, because we were on FaceTime, and I put my hands out to her and be like,
give me my gift.
Give me my money.
Yeah. And I told her no, que fuera a comer un bolo de mierda. But yeah. So if y'all hear noises, my cat is in heat.
Pobrecita.
For the second time. She's going to get
fixed.
Spayed.
You did?
On January 2nd. It's not fucking soon enough because she's been crying for the last fucking 3 days.
I don't think I've ever heard her cry like that before, and she sounds like a baby.
No, that's nothing. You should hear her en la noche. Le digo, igual es que parece la llorona.
Yeah. Like,
she's literally looking for her children que ahogó a la verga. Like, for real. Like, I'm so done with her. And then I tried to return her, pero Vanessa me dijo que no because I had my receipt was expired. It was past 90 days.
Yeah.
So no me la quisieron.
Capaz que te da store credit, then you have to get another one.
No, I'm good. I'm good. You know what? I'm good. Pero maybe I should get one of the ones she already got fixed.
You could. You okay?
Yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, other than that, it's like the crazy week of, before holidays, before, all of the kids that have choir. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of moms out there.
I think we talked.
Theater.
We said this last week. No, the episode before that.
I don't remember, but
I do.
If you do, then I'm sorry for you because this was the week of
all the things,
the Christmas parties, the science fair project, the dancing, choir, one day one thing, one day other.
Extracurricular activities.
Bien, lleva,
get this, get that.
Yeah, the fundraising. So I'm sorry for everybody else that is in my situation, but it's been a rough week for me. I feel very stressed out.
But ya mañana qué? Nada? So your kids get out early?
They get out early, which is another stress because then they want food all day.
Anyways, so let's get into this case.
Yeah. What do you have for us today?
So today we are going to Brighton, New York.
Oh, New York. We haven't been to New York in a while.
I don't remember the last time we were there.
Yeah, I don't think we've been in a long time. But Brighton, New York.
Brighton.
Is it like state New York? Or,
yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, if you would like to come with us to Brighton, New York, you can grab your cafecitos.
And let's get started. Now, the fun, random, interesting fact, it's a little bit more historical, as usually is with these type of like smaller towns. And what I found out about Brighton is that the area's first residents were members of the Seneca tribe and the Iroquois.
Okay.
The town got its name from William Billingshurst, who lived in Brighton in England. Y cuando se vino para acá.
He's like, let me just name this place Brighton too.
Yeah. So he named the area Brighton, pero Nueva York.
Cool. That's a cool, interesting random fact.
And then and I feel like, well...
Okay, motorcycle.
And also, according to townofbrighton.com, the town is mostly a rectangular shape. And it's mostly forested. So mucho verde.
That's kind of
like an actual
just like a rectangle of green.
Mostly.
Wow. Okay.
Like I wonder how cool it must look from up in the air.
Pues nada más que verde, güey.
Pues por eso, pero like in an exact rectangle, casi. Like almost.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it has like a road out around it or something.
No, pues tampoco es
to define.
It's not an island. I don't think so.
I'm just saying.
Like maybe where the parameters are, okay, this is just the town and everything else outside of this is considered something else.
Okay, I get that. So I wonder how they would do that back in the day. Like, nada más aquí.
No, well, I'm sure obviously the town has largely developed since then, but now it is mostly a rectangular shape.
Okay, cool. I like that.
Now, this case, I really want to know what you guys think based on the evidence at trial. When I first started reading about the case, I was like, okay, I know who did it. Yeah, it was him. Pero, as I kept on like looking into it, I wasn't so sure anymore. And I don't think that I know even now.
Like who did it? Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we'll begin. In this case, it's known as the Brighton Axe murder.
Axe.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I thought you said act like I act.
No.
Axe.
So we'll begin with Kathleen Rose Schlosser, who went by Cathy, and she was born on April 14th of 1952 in Mount Clemens, Michigan, to parents Anna Teresa and Robert Schlosser. Y le decían Bob al señor, pues. There were a total of 4 girls and 2 boys in the household, and Cathy was the second oldest of the kids. She was mostly known for how beautiful and smart she was.
That always happens that way.
I know, but it's true. You know, it is true. It usually happens that way. Her personality, just how she truly lit up any room that she walked into. She had a beautiful smile. De por sí, era güera. She had blonde hair. And it was somebody that you just saw, you're like, oh, I want to be her friend. Yo quiero ser su amiga.
Okay.
And in the same town of Mount Clemens, but on the other side of the tracks, on the better side of the tracks, James Frederick Krauseneck Jr. was born on November 12, 1951, to parents Pauline and James Sr. He went by Jim, so I'm going to refer to him as Jim. So while Cathy's family came from more of a working class, her dad had been a trucker who transported concrete, while Jim's dad or family was a little bit more well off. His dad was a successful businessman who owned a carpet and drugstore.
Okay, so you're telling me that the only thing that separated the two little areas was the train tracks?
No.
Oh, I thought you said something about a train track.
No, well, you know how he grew up on the other side of the train tracks? Just kind of meaning that on one side of town were the rich people and on the other side of the town.
Okay.
Yeah, like
so
that.
So it was a per se.
Yeah, a per se. Pues,
okay.
Sí, sí. But initially, that's how, esta Cathy grew up. Her dad worked for somebody else, but he eventually started his own trucking company. So he became his own boss. And
truckers make a lot of money.
Y luego de por sí, he became his own successful businessman.
Yeah, so then they were both parents of successful businessmen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the company was called Schlosser Trucking. So the couple met in high school, both Jim and Cathy, and began dating in college. They both attended the Western Michigan University. And it was after they graduated that they got married in 1974.
So they're about 20-something?
Yeah.
Early 20s.
Yeah. According to a cousin of Cathy named Susie, who at the time was just a kid, she said she remembered the wedding as just being big and fancy. Y que Cathy was a princess, that she looked like a princess in her wedding dress. Y ya me las imagino, back in the day, como usaban. The fashion was just...
Yeah, los puffy arms. Y
todo eso,
las sleeves
y el fleco, el pelo.
El pelo, y luego se ponían los velos largos así bien grandes. Yeah, that's so cool.
They would hold their hair with Aquanet.
Yep.
The hairspray. Mm-hmm. Jim and Cathy then left Michigan and moved to Fort Collins, Colorado, where Jim was pursuing a graduate degree in economics at Colorado State University.
Cool.
While there, Cathy worked as an orthopedic therapist and also gave birth to their daughter, Sarah, in 1978. Not long after, in 1979, they made another move to Lynchburg, Virginia for Jim's job. So he was going to teach economics at Lynchburg College. And Jim wasn't the only one working there. Cathy was an occupational therapist who worked with Project Daniel, which was a Central Virginia mental health services program for severely handicapped infants and babies.
Oh, wow.
So she loved and knew a lot about babies and was described as a talented occupational therapist.
Qué padre.
Everyone loved her and had nothing but positive things to say about her. People also had nothing but nice things to say about Jim. Later, an admin assistant at the Lynchburg School of Business, where Jim had been a professor, went on to say about him, quote, "He was very well liked by everyone, an extremely nice person, and very even-tempered," end quote. And while Cathy loved her job, she loved Sarah more. So she quit her job to spend more time with her daughter. And she actually only ended up working with Project Daniel from the fall of 1979 to the spring of 1980. So ni siquiera el año se hizo.
No.
A friend of Cathy later stated that she wanted to be the one that raised her daughter, I guess, as opposed to leaving her like at a daycare.
Yeah, there's a lot of moms that are okay with, like, they want to be like, hey, no, I'm going to take over, and they like being stay-at-home moms. And then there's some moms that are like, no, I need my career. Yeah.
Right. She didn't want to miss out on anything, I'm assuming. But it wasn't only that, but Cathy and Jim also wanted to have more children. That same friend also stated that as a couple, the Krausenecks, quote, "They made every decision they ever made together. They got along well. She was outgoing and sociable," end quote. So she wasn't shy about trying new things. And at the time, I think, Cathy, spoiler alert, not spoiler, but she ended up being killed. She was doing yoga. So ella andaba haciendo sus cosas with her daughter, taking care of her daughter and living her life, trying new things. And Jim was said to be more reserved. So they just kind of balanced each other out, I guess you could say. Now, in 1981, they moved from Lynchburg, Virginia to Brighton, New York, which was a suburb of Rochester. There, Jim began working for Eastman Kodak as an economist. And yes, Kodak as in like
The camera.
Yes.
Economist. Wow, that's crazy. How do you get a job as an economist?
Well, he majored in all that stuff too, so...
Like, casi como ser un como accountant, ¿no?
No.
No.
I don't know what an economist does. I guess he projects the economy and how their product is. Bitch, I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass.
You sound like you're talking out of your ass when I could just Google it.
Just hold.
What is an economist? What? A professional who studies how goods, services, and resources are produced, distributed, and consumed.
So I was kind of right. I was heading in that direction, I wouldn't say.
I want to say no.
I want to say yes. No, I'll play this back for you after we're done so you can see how much I was heading in that direction.
Wow. Okay.
So he was an economist, which I think I've never heard of anybody else being an economist.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool job.
That's different.
Yeah. For Kodak.
Yeah. Interesting.
But what happened? Like, does Kodak still produce? Yeah, they still produce cameras, right? And like film. Porque ya pues todos usamos el teléfono.
Yeah, but there's two professional cameras like Sony, Nokia.
Pero sí, hay cameras, but I'm just saying. So I don't know. Okay,
anyway,
go ahead.
We're getting off topic here. That brings us to the night of February 19th of 1982, which was a Friday. So Jim returned home from work at around 5-ish p.m. to find a horrific sight at his house.
That was quick. That went downhill fast. He returned to work and there was a horrific, sight.
Yeah.
That's scary.
In the bedroom that he shared with Cathy, he found his 29-year-old wife in bed with an axe lodged in her head.
Holy shit. In her head?
In her head.
What the fuck?
So Jim just grabbed his daughter, Sarah.
How old was Sarah?
3.5.
Wow.
And ran to his neighbor's house. The neighbors were the ones that called 911. And in the recording, you can hear the neighbor tell the dispatcher that, obviously what Jim has stumbled upon, and that he just looked out of it that he couldn't even talk.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
You imagine like walking, I mean, we talked about this last episode, like
coming across like a dead corpse or body.
Y ves una persona que está, and you're like, okay, ¿será de verdad? Or is it like a mannequin? Or what is that?
But this is you in your home.
Yes, looking for your wife. Entra, say, hey, ¿dónde estás? Esto, lo otro. You
and
know,
she's not just dead. She has a
whole ass axe in her head. Where was it? In the middle of her head or on the side?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
I don't know if, I'm sure he just probably saw that it was, in her head.
There's probably blood everywhere, huh?
Yeah.
Danger.
When the first responders made it to the scene, they confirmed that obviously Cathy was deceased. When her autopsy was later conducted by the medical examiner, it was determined that the cause of death was the single blow to the head. And she died instantly.
There was nothing else there?
No.
Okay. Do you imagine, like, at that moment, se va a morir and thinking what's going to happen to her daughter?
I don't even think you have a moment to think about it.
Like, I just can't, like, it was so fast,
Yeah.
Well, which is better, at least. I mean, I'm sorry, but...
she didn't suffer, I guess you want to say.
Yeah. Rest in peace. But.
So when distraught Jim was questioned by Lieutenant Flood, he stated that he left for work that morning at his usual time of, like, 6:30, and that when he left, Cathy was okay, and he said he was gone all day hasta que llegó al rato.
Was she wearing her PJs, or did they ever mention that?
She was still in her pajamas. Like
de todo el día?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
They do later confirm that she didn't even get out of bed that day.
No alcanzó a salir.
No.
Like, whatever happened.
She never woke up.
Yeah.
She never got up from bed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So la niña estuvo encerrada todo el día solita.
I was just about to get there. Yeah. He said that, okay, llegó a las 5 around that time. He saw Cathy, what I just pretty much just said. He saw Cathy, grabbed Sarah, and went to the neighbors. So Sarah was unharmed. Como nada le pasó a la niña. But it was obvious to investigators that she had spent time alone and had dressed herself.
Se cambió.
Yeah, because her shoes, tenía los zapatos in the wrong feet.
Oh.
And I think she had like multiple sweaters on. Bitch, it's fucking New York in February, so está pinche frío, right? And como que los tenía chuecos, like they were like lopsided and like things like that. Now, it seemed that, or it was apparent that Sarah was the only witness or was the only person in the house.
Yeah.
And obviously she
was... sin comer. Like my first thought is like she hasn't ate all day. Like she's going to be hungry. Like,
yeah,
oh my
¿a qué hora
God.
se despertó?
Sí, like,
por esto.
O sea, ¿qué es lo que miró? ¿Qué es lo que no miró? Like,
right.
That's crazy.
And she was little. Obviously, she was a toddler, but they asked her questions about what she could have possibly witnessed.
Sometimes a veces están al 100.
Yeah, I mean, she was almost 4, 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5, yeah.
Sarah said that when she woke up, her dad was at work and that there was no one to make her breakfast.
Ya ves, te dije.
I mean, she's...
Tenía hambrecita.
Yeah. Pobrecita. She also stated that there was someone in the house a quien no conocía. So somebody that she didn't know. And she said a bad man who was in mommy and daddy's bed. But they assumed that Sarah must have gotten confused and mistook her mom for a man in the bed, because when asked what the man looked like, what color the man was, black or white, she said, quote, many colors.
Oh.
Again, they believe that the many colors she referenced was her mom covered in blood.
Oh, okay.
And then también como las sábanas were like pink and blue y todo eso. As the scene was processed, investigators did not find any forensic clues such as fibers or any fingerprints. And as far as DNA went, it was 1982. So those type of things wasn't something that was being used or tested in an investigation. You know?
Definitely. We've come through that happening often in many of the cases.
Especially the older,
yeah.
So at first glance, the scene looked to have been like a burglary. There was a door that led into the house from the garage. Que tenía like a window pane. You know how your back door has like little window panes this?
Sí. Uh-huh.
So one of la puerta así was like that. So one of the window panes was shattered. There was glass.
Pero in the that one's in the kitchen?
No, it led from the garage into the house.
Ah, okay. I get that. Okay.
So right next to that, había a mall axe. which is usually heavier than a regular axe. It says that a mall axe on one side has like a sledgehammer, and then on the other side is like a regular axe.
Oh, it's kind of like a you could use it either side.
Right.
Okay.
And this was not the same axe that was found in Cathy's head, but both of them belonged to the Krausenecks.
So the other axe también era de ellos.
Yes.
Okay.
Inside the home, there were like items scattered around in the dining area, such as Cathy's purse with the contents all over the place. There was also a silver tea set, and I'm not talking just the color silver, no, like de plata, like real plata.
Oh, shit.
It was set on the floor with some silver like candle holders también de plata right next to it. But what was odd here was that the tea set, en vez de estar like scattered, it was like somebody placed it perfectly on the floor. Mm-hmm. And there was like a black trash bag next to it. It made it seem that someone was going to throw those silver things in the bag, not only because they were next to each other, but because inside the bag was like a faint shoe print, as if someone was like opening, like they used their foot as leverage to open the bag. Como que usó la pata para que they could open the bag and throw the things inside the bag at the same time.
Pero no se lo llevaron?
No.
Pero qué raro porque tenían tiempo.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, it wasn't like they were surprised by anybody, you know, que había llegado el marido o algo.
Se había despertado la niña o algo.
Pero a mí la niña, she didn't even know what the hell's going on. So,
right.
Yeah, you know, like, okay.
So all these things were like strewn about ahí en la casa.
Pero había something missing from her purse or no?
But nothing was taken. So this led investigators to believe that the burglary gone wrong, as it seemed, was just a cover-up to cover up the real crime, which was Cathy's murder.
My deal is, if you're going to go in to rob somebody's house, like, why don't you just rob and leave? Like, why do you have to kill this person and hit them with an axe on the head?
That's a weird thing.
Right?
Why an axe?
Yeah, like, you could have, like, just tied her up and left her there.
Or used a different type of weapon.
Or maybe, like...
Well, they went in without a weapon, right?
Okay, let's say that they went in without a weapon. I mean, they were by the kitchen. There was knives there. They could have told her, I'm going to stab you, whatever. Which hopefully they wouldn't, but I'm just saying.
Here's the thing. She never got up out of bed, so it's not like como que lo sorprendió.
Exactly, like what? That's
so did they go
weird.
stab her first, or I mean, with an axe? So you know, and this kind of crime doesn't happen. Burglaries, yeah, a fucking whole ass murder with an axe doesn't happen in Brighton, New York.
No, not only in Brighton, but in a lot of, I mean, obviously in places, sí, pero they'll go in and they take what they want and they leave.
Or stab you or shoot you.
Yeah, pero that's whenever you interrupt what they're doing, no? I mean,
for the most part,
I'm not a
according
professional
to economics.
Or a professional, like, que yo ando robando ni nada. Pero I'm just saying, like, in my mind, it's like, okay, voy a meterme a robar esta casa porque tienen algo. I want to take something that they have. So then I'm going to get what I need and leave. No me voy a quedar ahí para estar,
haciéndote babosa and
let
shit.
me chill, whatever. Let me get this platter and put it on the floor. Like, it's not, that's not my thought.
Unless
you're
fucking with people, right?
Yeah.
Unless you want to fuck with somebody.
Unless you're like,
investigators
I'm going to kill you, but I want somebody to think that I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to actually act like I'm going to rob. You know, that's the only way that I would think that. Me personally, I don't know about anybody else. Pero, I mean, that's just weird. And I've never been able to comprehend that. Like, if you're going to steal, why don't you just take what you want and leave?
Como like people that like rob gas stations that they end up shooting the people that are working at the gas station, bitch, just take the shit and go.
Like, not only that, but a lot of the people, okay, if they felt threatened, I see that. You know, sabes que me voy a ofender. They have a gun, they were, you know, pointing at me. Pero si sabes que si esa persona no tiene ni una gun, ya llevas el dinero. Vete, ¿por qué lo vas a matar?
People are sick.
Like,
because
why? If the gun is for you to scare somebody and your mentality is not, hey, I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to.
If your final goal is to just literally
just leave.
Take the stuff and go.
Yeah. So then I just don't understand. Maybe, like you said, people are sick and maybe they do it for the rush for another reason. But, you know.
But then the rush is to murder, not to
exactly not to. So then now you're doing two things at the same time. Like, now you want to murder somebody and rob. Like, it does. I don't know. Maybe because we're not, you know, professional thieves, but I just don't. I just don't.
Home Alone.
Like, I'm not a professional. Like, you know,
we're not a professional anything.
Yeah. Well, mira, a veces en Home Alone no mataron a Kevin.
No, pero pues,
they didn't take anything either.
Not the sticky bandits.
The sticky bandits did not take shit.
Literally nothing.
Nothing.
Not from the McAllister home, from other houses, but not from the McAllister.
No, pero le encontraron el tooth.
Which on part 1 or part 2?
Either one. They found his tooth. It was gold.
So, as we know, when a crime is committed against someone, the first suspect is the significant other. Mm-hmm. In this case, Cathy's husband, Jim. So police began, if y'all can hear in the background, there is un grillo here that's like chirping. I don't know.
¿Cómo se dice grillo en inglés?
Grasshopper?
Cricket.
Oh, cricket. Yeah, sorry. Grasshopper.
I'm like, ¿cómo se dice grillo en inglés? Cricket? Grasshopper? Either one, cricket, grasshopper, como lo conozcan.
It's in the background chirping.
It's in the background. I've already tried to kick it out yesterday. I told my husband to come look for it, and he's like, it's fine. I couldn't find it. So
okay, I don't think the mics can pick it up, but just in case. So,
I mean, if we go move something around, it probably will leave. Pero
but where though?
De aquí que se va. Anyway, go ahead.
Now, police began to look into Jim, according to friends and family that they interviewed and talked to. You know, the Krausenecks were a happy family. They even referred to them as the all-American couple. As far as they knew, there weren't any problems between them. And if they weren't telling other people. They were keeping it between them, too.
Yeah, I was about to say that they have, because most of the time they're like, oh, they were having issues, whatever.
But everybody has issues, you know?
Definitely.
But something that investigators found in the trunk of the family car led them to suspect that maybe things weren't all like honky-dory between both of them.
Not honky-dory. Like, you could have said anything but honky-dory.
They found a pamphlet for marriage counseling.
That's it?
Yeah.
Do you know how many times I've looked at marriage counseling and I'm still with this man?
And nobody has tried to kill each other?
Nobody's tried to hit me with an axe?
Or vice versa?
Or vice versa?
As they continued to look into Jim some more, they found out that he got the job at Kodak by stating that he had completed his PhD program from at Colorado State University, but he actually never did.
Oh, shit. He's a liar.
It was reported that shortly before Cathy's death, Kodak was asking Jim about his doctorate that they thought that he had.
I can't get over when you say Kodak. Me recuerda Kodak Black. I just can't. I can't. Okay. ¿Y luego?
They were looking at his records were, quote, having trouble finding documentation for the PhD. So...
But why would they look into it? Like, what?
¿Quién sabe? I'm
because
not sure.
Most of the time, jobs are just like, okay, if you have the experience.
Yeah, but are you applying for Kodak? No, that's the thing. He applied for the position stating that he had a PhD.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, if he's not going to put anybody in danger.
It's a well-known corporation, not fucking
that's true.
Down the street.
I'm just saying, like, if it's really, like, does it really matter? Like, if he knows, if he's doing the job,
HR is really, like, looking for credentials here, make sure all the paperwork is in order. Maybe if they get audited or quién sabe, internal investigation.
You're right, but I'm just saying, like, God, was it that crucial? Or maybe they were, like... They caught on to him, like, maybe he didn't have a PhD. Like, fuck.
I don't know what set them off, but since he had lied about his PhD, now the question... They
knew him as a liar.
The question was being raised if he was actually qualified for his job, the position that he had applied for. Now, I want you to remember this because it's going to come back a little bit later.
Kodak
fake PhD does not exist.
Okay.
Jim's behavior also became sus to investigators as, the time went by. Initially, he was very cooperative and spoke to investigators about what happened, especially that night. He also spoke to them the day after and had agreed to meet them later in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. However, he never made it to that meeting because he left town.
¿Pero para dónde vas?
He went back to Michigan where his parents were. So actually, his parents came into town because of what happened, obviously. Yeah. And he went back with them to Michigan and with Sarah, of course. So he just up and left and told investigators. And I mean, technically, he was allowed to do that.
He wasn't being charged, but I mean, the least you could do.
But like not even 24 hours after your wife.
Could you give them a reason why you're leaving?
Right. Or not even. Just be like, hey, I'm going to be out of town.
Yeah,
if you need to reach me,
I'm
call
here,
me. Right.
Whatever.
So that was definitely something that was odd. So investigators did follow him to Michigan, and he continued to cooperate with them from there. He provided hair and blood samples and continued to answer any questions that they had. Now, when Jim got an attorney 10 days later, after Cathy's murder, it just made them hone in on him more. And he now became their primary person of interest, but they didn't have anything to charge him with.
But the thing is, don't you always say, everybody, you need to get your lawyer, you need to get a lawyer, and then they do it, and then you look like you've done something because you got a lawyer.
But I mean, get a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean,
if you didn't do it, get a lawyer, and if you did do it, get a lawyer.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, everybody's always like,
you get two. If you didn't do it, get one. If you did do it, get two.
I don't think it works that way. Pero my question is, like, why do people say get a lawyer? Y luego when you get one, they're like, oh, you did it. That's
and I think
up.
maybe at the time también they didn't have anything else to go on.
Yeah, so they wanted to close the case. But can you go find some
evidence?
Some police work? Like, you know, how about that?
Investigations. To nail him, they needed to find out exactly when Cathy died.
Bro, I thought you were going to say 2 nails. I'm like, what nails? I'm so stupid.
One of your nails that just fell off.
Yeah.
Remember, Jim initially stated that he left for work at 6:30. Mm-hmm. In 1982, the death time frame was broader than it is now. Cathy's autopsy listed her time of death to be estimated between 4:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the morning.
Well,
so if Jim may have possibly done it, according to them, it would have given him plenty of time to stage the home, get ready for work, and leave.
Right? Would he just leave Sarah by herself with the dead body?
Right. So those are questions being raised through all of this, right? After reviewing all the evidence they had against him, they realized they had nothing against him. Like, there was no real case, not something that they were willing to bring up to a grand jury.
Yeah, it wasn't going to.
It wasn't going to go anywhere.
No.
So the investigation pretty much ended up going cold, and no arrests were made in Cathy's murder for many decades. In the following years, Jim and Sarah moved out west to Washington State near Seattle. Jim remarried a couple of times after Cathy's death. He married a woman named Gail in 1992, but the couple divorced in 1997. And he had already been married before he married Gail también. And then they broke up.
So he was just
getting married.
Married.
Yeah. That same year, in 1997, when his divorce was finalized, Jim ran into an old friend named Sarah. Why did I say friend like that? At a trade show. So he asked her out, and they dated for 2 years. She got along well with Sarah. Things were going great. And the couple got married in 1999. Sharon was aware of what happened to Cathy. Jim, of course, told her, but he never disclosed or offered any details. She said that she also didn't want to ask him anything because she saw how emotional and choked up that he would get when, the subject was brought up. After they got married, things went well for everybody involved for, again, a couple of decades. Now, Cathy's murder was one of the region's, quote, most notorious unsolved cases. And so her case was reopened in 2016. The Brighton PD and the Monroe County District Office jump-started the investigation and enlisted the help of the FBI. The new lead detectives this time around were Mark Liberator and Steve Hunt with the Brighton PD. After reviewing the original case files, they believed that all the evidence pointed to Jim as Cathy's killer. And so on April 16th of 2016, a Saturday, Liberator and Hunt paid Jim a visit where he was living now. I'm not sure if he was still living in Washington, or I believe I saw they were now living in Arizona. Mm-hmm. Please forgive me. I don't know which state, but obviously outside of New York. Jim, obviously they were surprised to see the detectives at his doorstep, but he invited them into his home and answered all of their questions and allowed the conversation to be recorded, which lasted for a little bit more than an hour. According to Sharon, they presented the conversation, or they led the conversation by telling Jim that they knew who had killed Cathy and they needed his help. But soon the conversation turned accusatory in tone. They straight up asked him if he had something to do with Cathy's murder, and Jim said, quote, "I didn't kill Cathy." And Liberator told him, "I disagree. I think you did it." According to Sharon, this was the first time that she was actually learning of details of what happened to Cathy. And she also stated that she never asked Jim if he had anything to do with it because that had never crossed her mind.
Shit, I'd be scared if I was with somebody that their wife was killed with an axe. Now, but the thing is, nobody else died with an axe.
Right.
Again.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I would be scared though.
And then by this point, they had already been married for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So it had been
it'd been a long time. I don't think she should have. Like, I wouldn't. That wouldn't be one of my questions. You know?
Right.
I think
so. I could kind of understand where she was coming from because she knew her husband, and according to her, like there was not one mean bone in his body, not enough to fucking. I mean, I'm sure everybody has their own issues with each other and shit, but you just don't murder your previous wife with an axe.
Well, not only that, but I mean, yes, he was a yayer about being a.
Have you ever lied on your resume?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about having a PhD. Pero
does that equal axe murderer?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, unless he was very passionate about her finding out. I don't know. Like, I don't know why it would mean.
I'm very passionate about me hiding that I did not have a PhD.
To me, that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kill my wife with an axe. Like, it makes no sense.
Out of nowhere, too.
Out of nowhere, but okay.
So, what did investigators have against Jim? Like, what was the smoking gun that they were ready to now be like, hey,
exactly, did you have new evidence?
Right.
Like, was there something that they found in the scene?
After reviewing the case files?
What was it?
In the most recent investigation, any DNA that had been gathered in 1982 as evidence was sent to the FBI to be analyzed. And the results showed that there was no DNA evidence linking Jim to the crime. But there also was no other person's DNA. So if it wasn't anybody else, it had to have been Jim.
Okay, so no DNA means
no DNA.
No DNA. Like,
but so yeah, the DNA wasn't pointing towards anybody else. Yeah. But if it's not anybody else, it had to be Jim because who else would have done it?
Bruh. I'm gonna need y'all to get better investigators because that is not okay. How is that even, like, how do you put that, like, those two correlations together like that?
I mean, I understand where they're coming from, right? Like, you're excluding everybody else, that at least one person, Jim. But also the DNA is still not pointing to Jim.
It's still not Jim. Like, what the hell? And it's not like the little girl said, yeah, my daddy was there all day or whatever.
Because I feel like Sarah would have said, yeah, my daddy. Or unless her dad, well, I guess it depends on what time she woke up because Jim would have left. Right?
I don't know. I don't think Jim would leave her alone with the body. I'm sorry. So. I don't think so.
No, they were very, both loved her, Sarah. Like, they both doted on Sarah.
Especially because of the fact that whenever she took, that's the first thing he grabbed and ran. If he would have not, yeah, you know, or even at that, he wanted to get away from it so quick that he just ran away. Now, did he?
Like, imagine if that was you. And you found your husband that way, like you would just leave, right? Like, because it came into question, well, why didn't he call 911, bitch?
First of all, by the time my wife has, or my husband has a axe on their forehead or in their head,
and I think it's easier. Obviously, in 1982, you have to. I mean, there were no cell phones.
That's what I'm saying. You have to go and actually press buttons and shit,
or like the little round.
And then he probably ran around and had to find Sarah. Finally, when he found her, he was okay. He probably in his mind, oh shit! If they did that to her, what did they do to Sarah? So he's like panicking, trying to grab her. What if they're still in there? You know, whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would have just grabbed my daughter and ran too. Like, yeah. And even the neighbor was like, he couldn't even talk.
Yeah. Now,
not saying that he's innocent.
No, right. I'm just, obviously
it's just,
we don't know. This is what was found at the time. Uh-huh. So to be able to charge Jim, investigators believed that they had to figure out a more narrow time frame or like a precise time of when Cathy was killed that would have placed Jim still in the home.
Okay, well, when you got a Kodak, did he clock in and stuff so that you can tell you at what time exactly he left?
We don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But here's the thing. Now, remember in 1982, the time frame was what, from 4:30 to 7:30? Mm-hmm. That's 3 hours. And that would give Jim 2 hours before he said that he left the house, right? Mm-hmm. In 2018, prosecutors turned to world-famous pathologist, Dr. Michael Baden, who for over 50 years had worked on very high-profile cases, such as the assassination of JFK, MLK, and testified for the defense in the O.J. Simpson's case.
Okay.
So he's
high profile.
High profile, knew his shit. I mean, he was very
respectable. You know, he
respectable, but his work caused a lot of like uproar. También, como a lot of people didn't agree with him or had something to say about what he was, you know,
controversial.
Yes, yeah, actually, that word, perfect. So Baden was hired by the prosecution, and he stated that in his opinion, as far as in Cathy's case, based on the original file that had been gathered in 1982, she died at 3:30 in the morning. So he's not giving a time frame. He's giving a precise time. It is worth noting that there were other medical examiners that were actually brought onto the newest investigation, and they disagreed with Baden and leaned more towards the initial time frame from 4:30 to 7:30. And it was still later than what he was saying. It was still an hour later. So the district attorney, Sandra Dorley, she does state in an interview, which is so I thought it was odd that she admitted that if Dr. Baden hadn't given them the answers that they wanted, they wouldn't have hired him.
What? So you don't care what he said, you just care about what he... I mean,
that it matched. That it fit your narrative that you were trying to present.
That's stupid.
Now, based on that opinion and what they all believed was a staged burglary, prosecutors presented their case to a grand jury, and Jim Krauseneck was indicted on November 1st of 2019. He voluntarily surrendered to the authorities a week later, and he pleaded not guilty.
Yeah.
So his trial would be delayed a couple of times, you know, due to the Panera Bread. And it officially begun in September of 2022. So this was recent.
Yo,
like my previous case también was just recent también.
Yo, my question is going to be this. ¿Imaginas la pobre muchacha having to go through this all over again? Like now.
And I don't think she remembers what happened.
No,
back in the day, but just
like
knowing.
Growing up without her mom.
And then knowing that you were in the house when this happened to your mom.
That's crazy.
Even though she doesn't remember it, but so Jim's defense attorneys, Bill Easton and Michael Wolford, were going to argue that it wasn't Jim who killed Cathy, but someone else. According to them, that someone else was a violent serial rapist named Ed Larrabee. Ed Larrabee was scum of the earth, literally a piece of shit. And he had been living in the Krausenecks neighborhood in 1982, just a half a mile away.
Okay.
In a basement apartment. At the time, Ed
would live in a basement
apartment. And they lived in a nice neighborhood, you know? So he was 28 at the time and had already been convicted twice of predatory sexual offenses and forcible sexual abuse and was on parole.
Damn! At 28?
Yeah. So it's también worth noting that these convictions that I just mentioned were reversed on appeals, but he's still a piece of shit because he still did way worse shit.
Yeah.
So after Cathy's murder in March, Ed Larrabee was questioned, or an officer tried to question him, and Ed went off on them or on him and told him that he wasn't talking to any fucking pigs.
Oh, wow.
Y que then he called his lawyer, and then the lawyer told the officer that Ed wasn't going to be talking, so que lo dejaran en paz. So it is reported that the officer left after Ed, quote, strongly suggested that he leave his apartment and never return. And sure enough, records show that there was never any follow-up investigation with Ed by the Brighton Police Department.
Nobody followed up?
Nope. He said, leave my house, never come back. And they left his house and never went back.
I wonder if that's how it works. Like, will they be like, leave me alone, I don't come back, and then they'll really not come
You're
back.
a pig. Don't come back here. Yeah. I'm telling my lawyer.
And then it worked.
Yeah.
Wow.
So throughout the years, Ed would go to prison, be paroled out, and would reoffend.
Oh, my God.
In such a case, it was after being paroled in 1991. This is really sad. I mean, everything that he did to women is really fucked up. But after serving his sentence for robbery, he was paroled after serving a sentence for robbery in 1991. And then he returned to the suburbs of Rochester, New York, which were his old like stomping grounds. There, he was hired as a maintenance man at the Newcastle apartment complex where 27-year-old music teacher Stephanie, I'm going to butcher her name, I'm so sorry, it's Kupczynski? So Stephanie Kupczynski lived there. Not long after began working there, Stephanie went missing. And her remains were found 7 years later in a shallow stream. And it was later determined that she had been strangled and no one was ever arrested for her murder. So in 2012, while Ed was in prison for many violent crimes against women, which also included attempted murder.
Pero he never stayed in jail.
He decided to get some things off his chest.
Oh, he needed to talk.
You see, Ed se estaba muriendo el puto, ¿verdad? He had Lou Gehrig's disease. Mm-hmm. And so he confessed to strangling Stephanie.
Wow.
And this was 2012, and he had killed her in 1991.
Okay.
And obviously when he told him what he had done, it matched. He knew things that only, the person that killer would know. So, and he leveraged this information to get things. Since he knew que se estaba muriendo, he wanted to be buried off the prison grounds.
Oh.
So he was like, hey, I'll tell you this. You make sure that I get buried somewhere else. So now knowing that he could get things he wanted in exchange for information, Ed contacted the FBI and confessed to being a serial killer who killed dozens, según él.
Okay.
He named one of his victims as Cathy Krauseneck. And we know that at the time, he was out and he lived down the street or close by. Mm-hmm. A la vuelta, pues, para decir. According to prosecutors, Patrick Gallagher and Constance Patterson, it couldn't have been Ed for a couple of reasons. One of them was that Cathy was not sexually assaulted.
Okay. Well, it doesn't mean that it
and
wasn't
Ed was
him.
A sexual predator, right?
Yeah.
This was a hole in the defense's argument.
Okay.
And to counter it, the defense presented an instance in 1983 where Ed robbed a mother and a daughter at gunpoint while wearing a Halloween mask. Pero no les hizo nada tampoco. But he did it. There was no sexual assault. Another reason that the prosecutors presented was that his confession didn't match the facts. So, according to Ed, Cathy had dark hair and was heavyset. But we know that Cathy was blonde and weighed 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And he stated that he killed Cathy in the summer of 1981, but she was killed in the winter of 1982, February. So prosecutors like, hey, it can't be this because it doesn't match. So Jim's attorneys contended that Ed was literally on his deathbed when he was giving these facts. So this was literally 2 weeks out before he died.
Oh, okay. So maybe he couldn't remember very
properly,
well?
Or he just knew that, hey, whatever I tell you is not going to get me anything anymore. Ya me voy a morir. ¿Qué te puedo sacar de esto? Nada. Again, according to prosecutors, Ed wasn't a killer, but let's remember, he had been convicted of attempted murder. So he had tried to fucking kill somebody. Mm-hmm. It wasn't with an axe or anything, but murder is murder. So mostly the prosecution's case was built and they thought that it rested on Dr. Baden's testimony and his opinion of when Cathy died. Remember, Dr. Baden's opinion at trial was that Cathy died at 3:30 in the morning.
But that's the only thing that they have. They have no like hair, fibers,
physical,
no physical,
forensic,
nothing. Like, I mean, and I can't believe that now in 2021 or whenever this happened, they can't go back and like look at what can't they go back and like research or something? Like
that's what they did.
But see, and that's when they found out that no.
But according to pathologist Dr. Catherine Maloney, who testified for the defense, they cannot pinpoint an exact time of death. She said that the best that they can do is give you a window of time of several hours. And she actually went on to disagree with Dr. Baden and stated she said that she believed that Cathy died later. So she's saying that she believed Cathy died between 5 a.m. and 1 p.m. And by that time, obviously 5 to 6:30 is still an hour and a half window, pero ya later 1 p.m. So everybody's kind of disagreeing with each other when she died. But again, she's saying that they can't give you an exact time. There's no way. So if what the prosecution was presenting, that Jim killed Cathy, what was the motive?
There was no motive, according to them. Oh, because they were getting divorced?
The possible motive that was raised was that Cathy found out that Jim lied about his PhD.
I'm telling you that's how freaking obsessed he was with
and that they had nothing else to grasp on, and that added more issues to the marriage that had already been struggling. Because remember, there was a pamphlet in the trunk that they were going to get possible marriage counseling.
What if that wasn't even theirs? What if somebody gave it to them like on the street and they just threw it there? Like, okay, but I mean, do you know how much shit my husband has done that I cover for him? Like, okay, you fucking lied. No, but I'm just saying, like, lied about your PhD. I'll tell everybody Alex had his PhD if I have to for him to get a good job. Fuck yeah.
I'll be like, I'll fake it.
Yeah, he went to Yale, shit, I don't know. Because that's what I'm saying, because that's the way.
I mean, and the defense, they're like, that's ludicrous. That's not a motive.
So
to kill your
dumb.
wife with an axe?
That's like a passion, like either you're psycho or if your husband's going to do that, like for you to get the balls to kill somebody like that, that's some shit.
And then, so obviously they're saying that although that happened and then he snapped and he killed her.
No. I'm sorry. I don't believe that, but I mean, I'm not a professional
prosecutor.
No, I'm literally nobody in this world, but I'm just saying, this makes no sense. Makes no sense. Why? Maybe they know something we don't know, pero what?
Now, both sets of lawyers focused on physical evidence found at the crime scene. Prosecutors wanted to drive the point home that the crime scene was staged to look like a burglary by someone who didn't know what an actual burglary looked like. So who would have known? Jim, because he was all like, BPD's nice and shit. The home wasn't ransacked. Nothing was taken, such as the cash that was on the dresser in Cathy's room. And remember the footprint found on the trash bag next to the silver tea set? Well, according to prosecutors, that print belonged to a specific type of boat shoe. And who owned boat shoes? Jim Krauseneck.
He had a boat?
But I guess like Sperry's. Those are boat shoes, right?
Oh, I thought you meant like he had like shoes that you wear on a boat. I'm an idiot. Oh, anyway, go ahead. I'm out of it.
But those shoes were never tested. So they couldn't say with 100% certainty that they were boat shoe prints.
Not only that, but I mean, if he did do that to his wife, where was the clothes that he was wearing? Because there was blood everywhere. I mean, we're talking about, that's a lot of splatter of blood. I mean, that's your brain that you're hitting. I mean, that's a lot of blood, right?
Yeah.
Y luego, so where's the clothes that he was wearing?
And you're going to be wearing, I guess if they can, para robar, to pretend that you're setting your house.
You're going to put on a boat shoe instead of like a...
Pantuflas or something?
Like, I don't know. It makes no sense. But okay, once again, I'm a nobody.
So while there was no physical evidence pointing to anyone else, again, there also was nothing pointing towards Jim. According to his defense team, the prosecution wasn't presenting any new evidence that they hadn't already...
They were just saying, because there's no evidence, it's you.
Like, they were just kind of rewording what had already been since 1982, pretty much, right?
And because there's no evidence, could it have been her daughter? Because she was there?
The only thing that they were presenting new was Dr. Baden's opinion. When it was time for the jury to deliberate, it took them 10 hours before they found 71-year-old James Krauseneck
71
guilty of second-degree murder.
Wow.
After 40 years. It had been 40 years.
That's
Barbie.
Fucking crazy.
Someone had been held accountable for the death of Cathy Krauseneck. Some jurors later spoke and stated that initially, 6 voted guilty, 3 voted not guilty, and 3 were undecided. What was a critical clue for them was actually the staged scene and not the fucking time of her death, as the prosecution were like holding on to by a fucking thread, trying to like push it in front of your face and stuff. At his sentencing, Jim spoke and he maintained his innocence, and he said that he didn't use past tense. He said present tense. He's like, I love Cathy and I didn't kill her. And he stated that he still found it difficult to speak about what happened to her because all he does is picture her with an axe
on her head
and the distant look that Sarah had when he got to her. Sarah, his daughter, also spoke at his sentencing, and she stood by her dad through everything. And she stated that essentially both of her parents were taken away from her. Her mother, who was killed, and her dad was taken away by, quote, a failed justice system that convicted him of a crime he did not commit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Cathy's dad, Mr. Robert, who was 95.
He's a fucking
Barbie,
bad bitch.
No, y el señor, bien macizo,
No.
Caminando, hablando. Tú dirías que tendría 10 years younger, at least 80.
At least 80.
85.
75.
At least, el señor caminando así bien.
What the fuck?
Sin assistance. Habla bien macizo, like I just said. He must take his vitamins.
He takes his vitamins for sure.
At first, when everything was going on, he didn't believe that Jim did it. But I think the fact that they felt that he took Sarah away from them, and Sarah didn't have a relationship with her mom's side of the family, and everything that started coming out, he then believed that Jim did kill his daughter. And at the sentencing, he told Jim that he hoped that he enjoyed his new home. So Mr. Bob also wanted to move Cathy's remains from the Jim Krauseneck's family plot to where her mom and her brother were buried. But to do that, Sarah would have to agree. And
no,
that's not looking like it's going to happen. Jim was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison.
Shit.
And obviously, you know, his lawyers submitted an appeal, but 6 months after Jim was sentenced, he died of cancer.
Damn.
So Sharon and Sarah are still working with the lawyers to exonerate him and clear his name.
Damn, that's crazy.
So that's the case of the Brighton axe murder of Cathy Krauseneck.
It's still unclear. It's still unclear to me.
Can you say that? I don't think Jim did it, but I can say that I think Ed did it. You know what I mean?
I don't think Ed was that smart. He was out there. He was just fucking around with people, just doing stupid shit. You know, he was doing things he wasn't supposed to. I think like robbing people like at gunpoint or like, you know, sexually assaulting. He wanted to show power. That wasn't him showing power. That was
it wasn't his MO.
That wasn't his MO. It was at another like.
But he was in the area, of course. Mm-hmm. And I could see why they would present him as a possible, what is it called? Possible, oh, it's escaping me the name.
A possible person that did it?
Yeah. Killer. But I can't say that I think that he did it. But I can't say that I don't think Jim did it either.
No. Es que no tenía razón.
But even then, there was reasonable doubt. Like for me, the prosecution didn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it and that he needed to be convicted of second-degree murder.
Mm-mm. That's crazy to me.
Y el señor se murió. Y pues la muchacha quedó huérfana, pues.
Pues sí. Pues, I mean, como quiera el señor ya se murió.
Por eso digo, pero
el papá de la señora sobrevivió más que él.
Yeah. I think el señor todavía está vivo.
Sí, es capaz.
Va a llegar hasta los 100, I'm sure. It's just sad that he, you know.
I mean, he lost his daughter and then he also lost his granddaughter.
Yeah.
But why did he do that? You know? Why did he take... Maybe he just wanted to...
Start new,
pero... I mean, that's weird too.
And maybe,
you know?
and I think about it like this. Maybe it was too hurtful to still be in contact with her family. Quien sabe? I don't know what to say, to be honest. Yeah. I don't know why he did that.
I don't know.
Pero I'm like, okay, well, pobre señora. But I mean, pobre Cathy, because I don't think there was justice for what happened to her.
There wasn't any concrete justice for what happened to her. There was no way. Okay, once again, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like you. Like, I feel like maybe he might have not done it, but then maybe, but there was no prints. I just think that the time, it was a bad timing for like DNA.
And maybe the fact that the case, like I said, it was an infamous case that hadn't been solved.
Yeah, and
there was a notorious case that hadn't been solved in that area, in the Rochester area.
So then probably they were just trying to find something. I don't know. I'm not talking about anybody's ways of they do their justice.
They're the professionals.
Yeah, they're professionals. I'm just saying, like, we're just trying to
we're just here talking about it. We're the ones with... Oh, we only have a podcast.
Yeah, we only have a podcast. I just work here, okay? But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. But let us know what you think. Let us know, do you think that Jim did it or not? I don't know.
Do you think Ed did it or not? Do you agree that we don't think maybe Ed did it, but we don't think that Jim did it either, you know?
Yeah. But then at the same time, then who did it?
Who done did it?
Who done did it? So you can follow us on Instagram at
Cafecito and Crime Pod. And you can also send us a message, leave us a review, rate us, download our episodes. We would really appreciate it.
Muchas gracias. Y
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Talk to you in the next one. Bye.